This is my project bin, and today I have a whole bunch of HO scale projects to go over. First of which is my GE 70 tonner. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but quite some time ago I got this thing essentially out of a garbage can and fixed it up. Someone at the club I'm a member of threw it out, and it just had a few issues and whatnot. The decoder was programmed to a different number, and it had some cracked gears. So essentially all I did was reprogrammed it and gave it some new trucks with some updated gearing, which has worked pretty well so far. Although recently the motor had been having some issues, so what I did is I went online and ordered one from Northwest Shortline and installed that in this locomotive. It's much smaller, and from what I've tested, it works pretty well so far. I haven't found any major issues. I replaced some of the drive shafts and whatnot, and it seems to be pretty good. It just needs a full-on break-in. I also installed a Tsunami 2 decoder, however, I do not have a speaker for the thing yet. One thing I do really need to work on before I go even crazier on this thing is the lighting. Up front, this shell is missing the plastic piece that goes there. It's got one on the back right here. And the other thing about this whole lighting system is that I am not great at lighting and whatnot. So up front, there's just the original bulb, and in the back, you can kind of see this whole tunnel thing where I've got a bulb that's probably far too big thrown in there. So I'll need to change the lighting on this thing at some point. Something else this engine will need at some point in the future is these handrails fixed, because they're kind of loose, especially on the back right here. So this thing overall needs some work, and it also probably needs some of the striping on the fuel tank. So this thing is nearly done, and I've been doing a lot of work, but this will still be a project that I work on for quite some time. Next, I recently bought these B&O coal hoppers, and it's not just the two you see here. I actually bought a total of 12 of these. I bought two Athearn RTR 6-packs. So these aren't blue box, they're a little bit newer, but still have some of the same components. And both of these packs were only like $100 each, which for these things is a pretty good deal. And these are some cars I was after. I want to build a coal train with my B&O FA and FB, and I think these will suit my need pretty well. These things actually came with coal loads and metal wheels straight out of the box, which is nice. Something I've done to all 12 cars is I replaced all the Easy Mates these things had with some nice new Cadies, so that should make them run pretty well, and I have not had many major issues so far. Some of these plates on the end are a little bit loose, so I might need to adjust them, replace them, glue them in place, something like that. But overall, I think these things are pretty good. They'll serve my purposes pretty well. I also added some weight to these cars. They came with the coal loads from the factory. However, they were still a little bit light, and the coal load itself made these cars just a little bit top heavy. So what I did is I just added a little bit of weight down in the car to lower the center of gravity a little bit, and make it just slightly heavier than the NMRA recommended weight that I follow. It's not really a requirement, but I like having most of my cars just a tiny bit heavier than what they recommend, and it's worked out pretty well for me. In the future, I'd like to buy a few more of these cars, but for the time being, I think 12 will be plenty. I'd like a whole 16-foot train at some point, but this thing is about, I'd say, 8 or so feet long, so probably I just need to get 2 more of these packs. I might also experiment with some scale trains or BLI cars at some point, but we'll have to find out. Following the theme of B&O, I've done a little bit of work on my Walthers Proto B&O caboose. I bought this thing to go with that FA and FB that I just mentioned quite some time ago, and it served me pretty well. Recently, however, I had a little bit of an issue with the coupler box. You can see on this end, it's got the factory black screw to hold the coupler box in, and it's worked well. And on this end, it's got a silver screw. What I've had to do with this thing is that original screw somehow stripped out, so I replaced it with just a slightly larger one, and it's worked pretty well. And now that I'm looking at the underside of this car, I think I need to clean these wheels, especially that one right there, and I think this dust monkey needs to be cleaned. As you can see, this thing's getting some pretty good use, so I think it's been worth the $50 I paid for it, but I guess there's more work to be. Back on the topic of projects, this is one of my MDC Roundhouse Shays. This one is lettered for Westside Lumber that I got from another friend, a club member, a while ago. This thing, when I got it, had some cracked gears, and it had a pretty large open frame motor. So what I've done is, first of all, I replaced the motor with another Northwest Shortline motor. I got this and also the gears for this engine in the same order that I got the motor from the 70 tonner for, which worked out pretty well. And as I just mentioned, I replaced the gears on this thing. They were cracked pretty badly, so they've gotten fresh gears, and this thing, as far as I'm aware, works pretty well. The headlights on here still need to be adjusted. They're kind of just sitting on here loose. I also threw on some Cadies, which is nice, so now it can actually pull some of my log cars. And the other really nice thing about this is it actually comes DCC ready. So I can essentially just plop in a decoder once I have one laying around that'll fit, and this thing should be good to go. After we go through the rest of my projects, I'm going to test run this thing, but that'll be for the end of the video. Recently, I bought these two Kato Amtrak gallery cars for a total of $40, which is a pretty good deal for these things. They seem to go for like insane prices on eBay, which I don't think is right. But overall, these cars still need a little bit of work. This one in particular, it's only got this one grab iron section that's broken. All the other ones on the car are good. This car has also had the odd Kato couplers replaced with actual Katies. However, the mounting point here with this little styrene shim is going to need some paint on both ends of the car. These cars also do appear to be lighted. I haven't tested it yet, but we'll find out at some point. And then this one over here is a little bit worse for wear. This one's missing essentially all of its grab irons. I don't think it still has any good ones on the car. I can probably go online and buy some good replacement grab irons, so that's not a huge deal. And on the underside, this car also needs to have some Katies equipped because it's got the annoying Kato couplers that I don't like. Same situation with lighting and whatnot. I don't really know that much about them. But if anyone knows exactly where these cars ran in the Midwest, because I believe that's where they ran, Amtrak did actually have these, I'd really like to know. And if anyone knows what type of engine would pull these things, that would also be some great information to know, because I'd like to build a consist for these things. It would be pretty fun, and I don't think many people have Amtrak gallery car consists. I'd also like to get a cab car for this set, but they're ridiculously expensive, so unless I find one at a really good price somewhere, I probably will hold off for quite some time. I've also done quite a bit of work to the Santa Fe Blue Box caboose. I got this car for free ages ago. I don't even remember how many years ago. I think it was about 4 at this point, but it's served me really well so far. It's never been in the greatest shape, but I did a whole bunch of stuff, and that should make this car significantly nicer. First of all, it's going to be kind of hard to see in there. I don't even know if you'll be able to see it through the windows. But I added a little bit of the stick-on wheel weights that I have to this car. It was a little bit light, so now the weight is pretty good on this thing. Something else that I did is these ladders on both ends of the car were missing, so those have been installed now. And on this end, I've installed a brake wheel because this whole mount was missing, just like it is on this side. So I need to fix that end of the car at some point in the future, but for now, I think this is a start. I also replaced the smoke chimney up here with a new spare one that I had laying around, which makes it look much better. And the other major thing I did, which you might be able to see, is I actually added windows to this caboose. It was just blank and empty and looked pretty off, and these windows make it look a lot better. Another piece of rolling stock that I worked on recently was this PRR gondola. Just like that Santa Fe caboose, I got this thing for free, this time from another club member quite some time ago, probably 2 or 3 years ago at this point, and it's been a really good car. However, the whole frame of the car had been really warped and skewed up, sort of in an arch shape, and it looked really bad. So recently I took a heat gun to the car and I bent it back into shape. So now instead of being arched, it's actually pretty flat. There are still a few little minor issues that I can't really fix that much, but I'm going to live with. Is the sides of this car are a little bit skewed right here, where I had to bend it just enough, which does not seem all that far off from realism, because a lot of these gondolas will get mashed up and bent like this in real life. And since this will be on a work train of mine, it should be pretty good. Again, it won't look perfect, but it'll do its job and it won't look as out of place anymore. And to counteract all this, I had to use a whole bunch of washers originally with this car so the couplers would be at the right height. And now that everything's a little more level, I had to remove all those washers and whatnot. So now it's a much lower riding car, it matches my other gondola on that work train much better, and it just looks a lot nicer overall. So I think this car will be a great addition to put back on my work train. Another addition to my work train, which is pulled by my Tyco 040 with DCC, is this PRR crane. I got this thing from eBay a while ago. I probably paid a little bit too much for it, but it's been a great piece of equipment. I've been looking for a crane exactly like this in an East Coast railroad to go with that set, and this one fits the bill perfectly. It's a really nice looking car. I believe it was built from a Tichy kit. I already got it with Katies and metal wheels, which is really nice. The only thing this car was missing originally was this front hook. So what I did is kind of an odd solution. I actually had a spare hook laying around from a Tyco crane, and what I did is I used a little piece of copper tubing I had laying around and tied it around that and just used a little bit of glue to hold it in place. So that piece needs to be painted just to match the car, but from the side while it's running on a train, it's really not all that noticeable, so it's not something huge I want to work with. I also do want to glue this hook into place because it likes to move around a lot and I don't really like that. In addition to all these projects and new additions, I've actually gotten rid of a few critical pieces of equipment that I had. One of which is my Bowser Challenger, which I've been working on for months. I eventually got tired of it, I got it working, and I decided I did not want to work on this thing anymore. I didn't really need a Challenger in my collection anymore, so that's now owned by a friend. And I also got rid of my PRR passenger set, which was in pretty rough shape. It had a roundhouse, I believe 460, and it had a whole bunch of like old IHC passenger cars and whatnot. I did never use it. It was not the greatest looking train, but now that's gone and I have a free carrying case in my room, which is really nice. And no, this Caltrain thing has nothing to do with that. And finally, one new small acquisition is this grippy tool thing. I don't know exactly what it's called. It's like scissors, but it's also like pliers that clip into place. It's a really useful thing when working on stuff. These were free, and I thought I'd mention them really quickly. Because Shay, it's pretty slow, but I'll give it some power really quick. I'll bring it back. Hopefully it'll want to go back. And there you go. This thing now lives.